Now, more than ever, the word home has taken on a new significance. Our homes have become our workplaces, our schools, our entertainment hubs, and our personal sanctuaries. At Dwell with Dignity, we bring a sense of home and safety to those who have never had it before. Join us as we talk to designers, artists, and creatives about what home means to them, how they shelter and style, and why giving transformational design to those less fortunate is so important. I'm Ashley Sharp, and this is Dwelling Well. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Dwelling Well. My name is Ashley Sharp, and I'm the Executive Director of Dwell with Dignity. Today, I have a longtime friend of the organization, David Goltl, here with us. Hi, David. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So I actually very distinctly remember the first moment that we met, because I think we were both wearing Angela Scott shoes at a Dwell with Dignity party. And I remember you were so fashionably dressed. I was like, this guy has to be in the design community. And you were. So tell us how you operate within the design community and how you got started in design in the first place.
I got started in design, probably 20 years ago, working on the retail side of things. I started years ago at Pottery Barn and then moved to a small boutique called Urban Home. And that's when I really got to kind of cut my teeth and work with clients on designing spaces and furniture. From there, I moved to Design Within Reach and spent 13 years with that organization.
I love Design Within Reach, and they've been a longtime friend of Dwell with Dignity. So what are you doing nowadays?
I am working with a small company based out of Brooklyn, New York, called Rowland Hill, and they are a manufacturer. So they build all their lighting and fixtures in Brooklyn, New York.
That's so neat. So have you had the opportunity to go up there and see the showrooms?
I have. It's a beautiful showroom. We actually have a showroom in Soho, and then we have a studio is based in Industry City in New York. And so that's where all the fixtures are built. So everything is actually handmade.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So obviously you have this incredible experience within these very niche fields of design. So what's your personal design philosophy like?
My design philosophy is, if you like it, buy it, and figure out a way to work it into your space. Everything that you put into your home should have a meaning to it. It should have a story behind it. I'm not really big on things that just look really cute or pretty. I want there to be some sort of story that goes behind it. Everything should have some sort of soul to it in your space.
And does your wife share that philosophy too? Because obviously she would have to have some interest in the design, being married to you.
Yes, she does. We do share some similar design aesthetics and philosophies. As we're sitting here talking, I'm looking at pillows that she brought back from her trip in Peru that she went with my daughter on. So, it's those type of things that I like to have around the house, around the space.
So speaking of children, I'm assuming that you had to finish the school year at home. So what was that like, having to carve out space in your home to be multi-purpose?
That was probably the easiest jump or transition for our family. My son, who's the only child that's in school right now, he's 16. He is a sophomore in high school, so he finished up his school year in his bedroom. And he is not really big on being out and about and doing all sorts of crazy things. So he was in his zone. He was in his happy place. He could do all of his work from his desk, take a nap in the middle of the day, and then get back up and finish his work. So he was totally content with this whole situation.
So is this the child that is starting the flying lessons right now too?
Yes, he is. So that conversation actually started right when COVID hit and we were trying to figure out, knowing that he could finish his schoolwork in probably 2 hours, we were trying to figure out what we could present him to occupy the rest of his school day. And he sat on the flying lessons right up until school ended, and then decided to jump in and do it. So now he takes his ground, I think it's called ground school. He's doing that from his computer at home, and also doing some animation, college animation right now.
Well, and I think that's so great that you are such an active dad and you're so much part of their lives. I know that you were really involved in the Boy Scouts, and fitness is a huge part of your entire family. So can you tell me a little bit how you've carved out a space for fitness in your home? Because I know that's something that you're really passionate about. You do Spartan races, you're an incredible competitor. So what's that been like, having to transition to home workouts?
It has been, again, it hasn't been a really hard transition for me. The garage gym started probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and I just started adding small pieces to the garage. And lo and behold, COVID hit and gym shut down, and everyone kind of went into a small panic. And I looked at my garage and thought, I have everything I need right here that I've been collecting over the last few years. So it's worked out really well. It's a space that just about everyone in my family uses. My daughter uses it with her friends. My son uses it occasionally. My wife does yoga in the gym as well. So anyway, it's a really good space for everyone to kind of decompress and recharge. And so I'm kind of glad I have it now. And even though we have a gym membership, I don't think we're going to be going back to the gym anytime soon. I think we all like the use of this small space.
I think it's great that you can use your home in so many ways. And you're right, I don't think we're going anywhere anytime soon. So it's great that you can find ways to work and study and promote your fitness at home, because right now there's a lot going on in the world and we need to make sure that we take care of ourselves too. And self-care isn't always top of our list.
No, it's not. I think that gets left behind a lot of times because we're all kind of caught up in the rat race of things.
So speaking of what's happened recently, obviously there's been a lot of activity, especially in Dallas, around Black Lives Matter and these justice charged movements, which are so necessary right now. So at Dwell with Dignity, 100% of our clients are people of color. So they're mostly African-American single mothers or Hispanic single mothers who have been through homelessness, domestic abuse, trauma. They've really experienced so many different horrific things in their lives. And we're trying to come and support them and lift them up. But it's not just about Dwell with Dignity right now. I feel like everyone in this city needs to be lifting up people of color. So what are your thoughts on this right
now? On lifting up people of color? It's something that needs to happen and needs to continue to happen. I think this has been, trying not to go too much off the rails here. I think this is something that's been kind of overlooked for many years. And the situation that happened with George Floyd obviously kind of brought things to a fever pitch and has forced blacks and whites to really look at what's going on and trying to figure out a better way to take action and to improve.
So what has it been like being a person of color in the Dallas design community? Because there isn't a lot of representation, as far as I can tell, in that community right now.
There isn't. There hasn't been. I mean, for as long as I've been in this industry, people of color are few and far between. I joke often about a lot of times I would usually get phone calls or clients that would come in to see me. If I wasn't there, they would use every descriptor to describe me. Looking for me, they'd say, well, he's bald, he has glasses, he has a beard, he's kind of funny. And usually my coworker would say, the black guy, David? Yeah, he's not here. And it's just one of those things where we're kind of I don't know what the perfect word to use for it is. we're kind of the odd man out. And I know there's a lot of talented Black people and people of color in this industry. I just don't understand why they're overlooked so often or not looked at enough.
So every year at Thrift Studio, a big part of what we do is trying to bring in diversity in the designers that we have. And so what can we do as an organization to bring in more diversity, and how do we find talented Black designers?
It is, I think, one of the easiest ways right now would be, your social media. I mean, Instagram, Twitter. I guess you could probably even consider TikTok, but a lot of these other social media channels have a lot of talented Black designers that are sometimes blocks away from you and you just don't know it. It's finding some of those people, some of those talents, and starting conversations with them. I'm really, really big on having conversations with people just to kind of get things going and to kind of prime the pump. In my opinion, nothing is more important than sitting and breaking bread with someone and having a meal. And a lot of times it's discussing everything but design or everything but the industry. It's a conversation about you, what your interests are, what your kids are like, those sorts of things. That really starts to build a solid relationship to where you can move to the next step and say something like, hey, I'd love to actually work with you or collaborate with you on this particular project or product. Sometimes I think jumping in and going, hey, let's work together because you're Black, that might not be the best way to go about it, but starting out with a conversation and really getting to know that person and having that person get to know you as well is really, really key.
Well, and I think that's so important right now, because I'm sure that Black people and people of color are inundated right now because everyone's trying to make amends and everyone's reaching out. And so it's important that whatever you do it authentically, right?
Absolutely.
That people feel that true connection, that you're doing this because you like their work, not just their skin color.
Exactly. Again, that's one of the things that I'm a little gun shy of, is there's a lot of this, let's go seek out that person of color and have that conversation with them or collaborate with them. I want that to stay the same 6 months from now, a year from now, and 3 years from now and beyond. I would like to see really solid relationships built between people. If we're going to start this, we've got to finish it together.
I mean, I think that makes so much sense. So what can, I say white people, I'm mixed, but what can white people do to listen better right now?
I don't know if you can listen better. It's just listening. That's and listening and trying not to be offended with what you hear. Listening and waiting to respond with an answer. But it's just listening, and frankly, that goes both ways. Even I have to sit and listen to understand. I use a phrase around my household a lot, which is seeking to understand. A lot of things I don't know and don't understand. And so if I ask questions, I'm literally seeking to understand what your point of view is, or what my kid's point of view is, or a friend's point of view is. I'm literally seeking to understand. And I think we all need to approach this with that type of mindset and just listen.
So obviously you have been very active and very vocal about what's going on. What about your children?
My children my daughter is a little, obviously very upset over what's going on. She has friends that range from, I feel like every skin tone has walked through this house at some point in time. And there's been a hijab or two that's kind of breeze through our house on a few occasions. She doesn't really understand, but she's frustrated with the behaviors and how things have kind of grown out of control. She's spent a couple nights protesting, and kind of sharing her voice, which I was obviously a little nervous, but again, very proud that she stood up and spoke out. My son, again, he's very quiet. He's observing, and I feel a lot of times like he's holding back to watch and see what happens before he makes any really strong statements. He knows his position. He knows, both my kids are mixed. So they both know there's a privilege and a disadvantage to their life that they live. They're very much aware of that.
Well, and what's really striking to me is that you're a man of a very strong sense of faith. So how does your faith guide you in handling these issues?
Everything goes back to the Bible. If there's something that I don't know or I don't understand, my first action is to seek through the Bible, any type of biblical teachings or scriptures to better understand the situation. And that'll never change.
And so would you say that gives you more of a sense of grace and acceptance with people who maybe have started changing their minds and didn't see this way before, but now obviously have had this come to light?
It does. And I think not even with people that have changed their mind, I feel like I need to have grace and acceptance for people that haven't changed their mind. That's the right thing to do. I may not agree, but I can still respect and love that person, and hopefully pray that they see the light, that they understand.
And that's a hard thing to do, especially when I'm sure people that you're working with come from different backgrounds and viewpoints. And, it's hard to think that people that you've dealt with your entire life may have these, prejudices buried that they're not even aware of.
It is. It's very difficult. And to this day, I can say through all of this that has happened recently, I've had to walk away from a couple of friendships, just based on their viewpoint and their stance on things. I've had to walk away because it's not healthy, and that saddens me because there's an opportunity. I still feel like there's opportunities for conversation and change, but sometimes it just got a little too volatile. And it was a moment for me to step back and walk away from that.
Well, and that goes back to self-care. You really do have to take care of yourself and your family. That has to be your priority.
It's first priority. It's my ultimate priority. I actually have that tattooed on my arm.
Do you really?
It's God, wife, children, work. Those are my priorities.
I think that's amazing, and I love that it's such a strong part of your values. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so excited to talk to you today, is because you do have these really strong viewpoints, but they all come from this really empathetic place, which is something that a lot of people don't have.
And I don't understand why it's that way. I wish I could give you an answer, but I don't understand why there's not more empathy.
Well, I think that it's something that we can definitely work on. And speaking of working on ourselves, what can the design community specifically, because that's, where we work with, that's who we work with primarily, what can the design community do to be a better ally, especially for the Black Lives Matter movement, but for people of color in general?
I think as for the design community, being an ally is great. I also like to use the phrase being an accomplice, which means that you're in it you're thoroughly involved with this movement and the progress of this racial tension that we have, and kind of bringing it to an end. For the design community, again, I go back to, it's the conversations, it's seeking to understand what these people of color have to offer, and finding a way to fold that into your events, your showrooms, your projects, all those different things. A lot of times I think, like most people of color, Black people, we're not looking for a handout. We literally just want a seat at the table. Just, put me in, coach. Give us an opportunity to collaborate with you on a project, to collaborate with you on an event. That's what we're seeking. So it's, the design community can start by, seeking out these companies, these designers, these creatives, and starting conversations with them to see where they can grow from there.
I think that's really great advice, and I think that's something that I'm going to take to heart, and I'm going to put that into place as well with dignity. So here's a question that I always like to end with. What makes home for you?
What makes home for me? It's the people in it. As much as I love my house, it's great. I love it. But if I didn't have my wife and 2 kids, it wouldn't be much of anything. My home, we could live in a shack, but if I have my wife and my 2 kids, that makes it a home. It's my family, hands down.
Well, thank you so much, David, for being here today. I'm so grateful for your wise words and for speaking truth to action. So thank you for being part of this series.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being here.
This has been another episode of Dwelling Well. My name is Ashley Sharp. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.